The joys of waiting for technology. Kind of like staring at a pot, waiting for it to boil, just to make sure that there we go. Got that. And we're live at 6 p.m. Central Standard for Triple T number 78. Still blows my mind. I'll thank everybody for joining tonight. My name is TJ Zebill. I lovingly refer to myself as a professional problem solver, and I always have to follow that up with, no, I don't have all the answers. Yes, I do have an ability to ask questions to help people find their way to the answer they're looking for. And if I can't answer it, I can hopefully direct you, find some way to get you the answer you're looking for. I have a website, thetswb.com, the tall skinny white boy.com. In case you thought it stood for something else, no. Been that for many years. We were just discussing that before we started the recordings. And we'll get to that later. I also offer a free 30-minute consultation. That is your chance to get a hold of me and talk about anything you want, any issues you might have, questions, concerns, all the above. And I promise if I'm a fit, I will let you know. And if I'm not a fit, I will let you know. And I will do my best to find you somebody that can help you with whatever it is you're looking to get help with. Second hour, please. I know some of you like to have some questions. Feel free to type them in the chat so we can figure out what we're going to start with. For those of you on YouTube, hi, Mom. I get to do that every week. And for those of you watching the recording, thank you so much. If this is your first time, please do all of the YouTube stuff. Click the subscribe, ring the bell, leave a comment, smiley face, share it with friends, all the above. Enough of that. So, what's happened with you guys in the last 7 days since we chatted last? Anything new, exciting, ahas, epiphanies, things you want to share?
I'll jump in. I'm sure Lenora has some that she has to share too, based on the look that she's getting. I have had so many things happen this last week. It almost feels like a year's worth of stuff rather than a week's worth of stuff. But I had two things in particular that I think I want to share. One was I had a day where I forgot my security badge at work. And when we forget our security badge, we have to go to the security and get what most of us call the badge of shame. And I just thought it was really awesome because, here I am stressed out and embarrassed and whatever. And I go in and the security guard says, "Hey, here's your badge of glory." I'm like, the badge of glory? What are you talking about? And he says, "This is the badge that proves that you are so great at manifesting that you didn't even have to bring your badge today because you just knew you would be able to figure it out." And it just his energy just completely changed everything for me. And he was absolutely right. And then the other thing that kind of happened is I was at my pool, and back in the day, I was just kind of remembering, I used to be terrified to lay on my back. And this time I just kind of went out and I basically almost took a nap in my pool. And it just kind of occurred to me that the reason I struggled so much is because I was panicked and I was always splashing, and that was making it hard to breathe. The water was getting in my face, all that sort of thing. But as soon as I calmed down, I literally had nothing to be afraid of. And honestly, I didn't even know how deep the water was wherever I was floating. It didn't matter. It was just that trust of knowing, hey, I have what it takes to lay down. So anyway, those are the two things I wanted to share for my week.
Awesome. Hey, look who's back. Anything you would like to share from your week, Sava? It's like, dude, I just got on. What's going on?
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Sal.
Now I can hear you.
We're just sharing any ahas, epiphanies, cool moments that happened in the last, since we saw each other last. I guess for you, it's been 2 weeks since we saw your handsome face on here.
TJ, hi, everybody. I spent a lot of time with David, and this time it was something that I was teaching for years and something that I heard so many times, but I feel like I did not apply. And it's so simple and it's so powerful. So I'm gonna share with you guys tonight. It's that echo technique that David always talks about. So I just ever since I came back from the seminar, I had customers, and for cars, for some reason a lot of people are looking for cars now. So I would be like, oh, let me go outside, even though it's really hot here in California. I don't know how it is in Texas, but so I would go out, and then I would do the protocol just the way I do it, but just echo with I would try to echo the tonality. I would repeat the words, the ones that are important, and list the values, criteria, link to the product, and then I would constantly use the matching and mirroring as I echo. So if someone says, I had this this vehicle that was repossessed 3 years ago, then I would remember that, and then I would use that down the line, maybe 3 minutes from that moment. I would say that vehicle that was repossessed 3 years ago, that's one of the reasons why your credit is not so good, and that's what's, and so I would just go on with that. But echo is one thing. If I can share anything that I learned from David, talking to him personally and both in class, and noticing the results of just creating rapport by repeating the words, not just any words, but the values and criteria. So that, and other than that, I had a great time in San Diego, and I'm glad to be here with you guys now.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you brought up Echo, part of what I lovingly call the trifecta, which is Echo Talk, 3 magic questions, and values and criteria. And I have said, if you've been around Planet TJ for a while, I have said it over and over and over and over. This stuff needs to be taught to every human being on the planet right after they learn how to say, Mama, Dada. Because if we could do that, there would be so much less misunderstandings, miscommunications, all the above.
And if you want, TJ, now since we already brought it up, maybe you can do echo with me, just as example, so that way some people from YouTube, or I'm sure people here heard that before, but I think it would be beneficial if you give an example.
Well, and I think you're right. It is beneficial for people to learn how to echo and talk like that. And the funny part is, a lot of people don't understand when you are talking with somebody and echoing them, they rarely notice it, right?
They barely notice it.
Yeah. But the people on the outside hear it plainly. And that doesn't make it a trick. That's why so many of my students get it in their head that, oh, this is something that I'm pulling on. No, the reason that the person you're talking with, notice I didn't say talking to, the person you're talking with, when you're echoing them, the reason they don't hear it is those words are so comforting to them. They already know what those words are already vetted. And it makes them feel heard, understood, and validated. Right?
Absolutely. I love that. So how first you agree, if you agree, but you don't have to agree. You can simply say, I see how that makes sense for you. And then you repeat their words, and it's so great because it's really win-win. It's not just, oh, I'm gonna have influence over you, so I'm gonna make you do this. It's really you understand that person, which means you understand how to look for win-win. And it's beautiful. I love that you brought up that part, which is the most important. Some people go, I'm gonna echo so I can seduce this person, and I'm gonna make them do this, I'm gonna make, whatever. But it's not about making something, it's about just being enjoying the process of connection and making things better together. So
And
that's
I'm glad you brought up that you don't have to agree with people all the time, and yet you can use echo very efficiently to discuss it. And one of the easy ways to roll into that is to start off the reply is yes, and it's I acknowledge what you said, and then you echo part of what their part is and put in your point of view in the reply, and you'll find out that they are much less standoffish this way. It's almost like doing a dance with them. Instead of pushing hard against them, you grab their hand and you lead them with you. It's much easier to talk with people that way, especially if you're dealing with any type of humans in their natural environment. And Elijah commented, I challenge you to get caught doing it. Absolutely. I tell that to all my clients and my students.
Hello,
And,
TJ.
hey,
How's it going?
it's going well. Thank you.
I wanted to just say something here real quick.
Yep.
The challenging you to get caught is not me saying that, oh, you'll never get caught. So, be brave. What it is me actually saying, do it to the point where you get caught. Like, really get caught. And I know some people are going to have a hard time with that, but what will happen if and when you get caught? What will happen? Will it be the end of the world? No. It will be one of the best learning experiences you've ever had, right? You will know finally where the limit is, right? Mm-hmm. And there is also, I know Joe's like, let me in, right? Sabo is just like,
I just want to bring something up. I think it's so important, Elijah.
You can bring it up in a moment.
Something that just happened 20 minutes ago here. I was having a customer in the office, and they said to me, oh, I noticed you repeated my words because I was really pushing it. And I said, yeah, sincerely, I did, because I want to make sure I understand you better. I swear to you, once I said that was this boom connection. It was more than any echo that I used until that point.
Now I've got a quick question for Jade. Jade was on the webinar that Sabo was kind enough to trust me with his Thursday night webinar. We went over this. Does this sound mildly familiar from Thursday night, Jade?
I was laughing because yes, it's exactly what you were talking about. And also I wanted to add though, ever since that class, because honestly, I wish so bad that class was recorded because it was so amazing. I want everybody to hear it. And you shared another technique as well that I already knew about, but I wasn't quite sure how to reframe it. And which was with the mantras, right? So that the critical mind's not, right? And you made it so easy. And ever since then, I've been using what you said, which were questions that sort of slip by, the critical part of the mind. And they work so well. It's amazing. And I just wanted to say thank you for that. But that class was so good. I wrote so many notes, and it's actually the first time in a while that I've got a lot of information from any of the classes that I've went to. So I really appreciate what you put out. And I have been telling people that it's gold. The stuff that you're saying is literally gold. So everybody out there, just make sure you're really listening and taking it in.
Okay, now that I'm all humbled and full of feels, thank you so much for sharing that. I just love teaching. So thank you again. Wow, okay. So I've got 3 topics for tonight, but it sounds like we've got a pretty intense one here. Or they could catch the class from Thursday night. Where would they find that, Saba, out of curiosity?
Oh, I can on my Facebook page there is a link. Savo Kosic, SAVOKOSIC is my Facebook. But also I'm gonna go ahead and put the link here in the chat so that people who are here, maybe you guys, it's always the same. California time, Thursday, 6 to 8. So thank you, TJ.
Thank you. Okay, well, yes, Elijah, we caught you right in the middle of the topic, so I didn't want to completely cut you off either. Are you there?
I know, especially with echo technique, people do reflective listening. If you listen to other coaches that are talking about it, are strategically working to learn more about their client. But I think the way that you teach it and the way that we like to work with it and play with it, we use it to our advantage, especially with shifting the tonality, but really coming into rapport with an individual. And when I didn't at first understand rapport, and the more I navigate in and out of things, the deeper I understand rapport. And I love that because it just keeps blooming and unfolding. And I think that's an amazing thing. When you're in rapport with somebody versus just beating every sentence that is coming out of their mouth, which comes across in certain programs, they call it reflective listening, and they're going after every single sentence. Here, I love that it's called echo technique, but it also is done and it's also taught with grace and with knowing when to add, knowing when to hold, knowing when to weave, knowing how to match and mirror. And I think there is such a beauty in that, as that resonates much, much deeper than just their words.
Exactly. Thank you for sharing about the rapport. It seems like it can sound overwhelming when we cover all of the different things there are to communication, and yet communication is one of the most important human aspects. You got to communicate some way, somehow. Even if you're living in your parents' basement, you got to figure out some way to get food. So the better you get at it, the better it is, the easier it is to get what you're looking for, get the answers that you need, and have the ability to help others. With that, any other stuff we want to add to this before we try to sneak in 3 topics in the next 40 minutes? Well, the topics I had for tonight are death, minimalists, collectors, and hoarders, and aging and friends. The first one I'm going to skim over pretty quick. Had a close death this weekend, And it just brought up the old topic of, any of you know, have any of you had anybody that you know pass away? Well, yeah, because circle of life, it is what it is. And yet the amount of phobias, the amount of anxieties, the amount of pain and all the things that circle and surround it, I think we need to pay attention for our clients to make sure that we have tools and options available to help them when things like this come up. And the cool part is, ironically, but not ironically, Echo Talk, 3 Magic Questions, Values, and Criteria, the trifecta, is a great tool for helping people deal with sorrow and all of the above. It also helps them understand what it is that they're dealing with. And I'm going to throw some of the stuff out here. Those of you that have been on the call a number of times, and those of you that have access to the recordings, you can go back to the recordings to listen to the full in-depth part of it, or if you want more answers, you can certainly contact me. But another protocol that I use a lot for death and sorrow, things of that, is 3-chat. Amazing protocol to help people deal with being able to say what they wanted to say or get out any anger, frustrations, things that they didn't get to address while the person was still alive. Another part that I wanted to bring up tonight, no offense, chances are every one of us on this call might die at some time. Good chance. I could be wrong. I would like to be wrong. But as far as myself, I got a good feeling. I've got an expiration date. I don't know when it is, and that's why I'm bringing this up. Take the time and do this as a double, I'm not sure, I wouldn't call it a double-edged, a double approach. I would like you all to write your eulogy. And for one, it takes the pressure off of your family. They don't have to sit there and wonder what you would want said. You can write it exactly the way you want. But you can also write what your life is going to be. What would you like it to be? You can write that right into your eulogy. If by chance something tragic happens, which we're not going to put that out in the universe, all the above, we're all going to live to be 110, we're going to all set records, and we're going to change the world, big dents in the universe. But write down what you would like to accomplish in your eulogy that you write today. Pick the picture that you want representing you till the end of time online, so they can have that ready for it. Mine will probably be some funky selfie going, just to let everybody know that I was a very serious type person. Figure out what kind of music you want played at your celebration of life, all the above, or at least what you don't want played. My father made it very clear he didn't want no frickin' funeral music. Amazing Grace. Nothing against the song. Beautiful song. But where we grew up, every funeral had to be played. And you're trying to sing it. And everybody knows the chorus, but they don't know the rest of it. And so it just sounds like this miserable wailing. And It's like, no. I'm all for the New Orleans, let's throw a party, let's go. If we're gonna have to have a parade, put me in tow me behind a Harley Davidson on a trailer and have some rock and roll blaring so that everybody knows it's a party and we're gonna meet down at Happy Joe's for happy hour and, everybody can raise a glass for me, But that's my style. Figure out what your style is so that everybody that's left behind doesn't have to sit there and think about it. Prepay your funeral stuff. Get it paid for. God loved my papa, but he was like, I'll be dead. It doesn't matter anyway. I'm like, yeah, hopefully I won't. Be kind of nice if if there was a little coin set aside. So, Sabo.
No, I just put thumbs up. I 100% agree.
Yeah, the person that passed away, all their stuff was all paid for. So I figure, you know what? Lock it in today because it's not getting any cheaper. Figure out where you want to be planted if you want to be planted, or figure out where you want to have, a marker that people can come and say all the nice things about you that they should have said to your face while you were still alive. It's another reason to give people compliments. Tell them how you feel about them. I had one guy say, I'm just going to fake my death so I could be in a funeral that listen to people actually say nice things about me. I was like, ooh, that's a little dark, kind of, maybe. I don't know. And make sure that you talk to your family, your loved ones, get after them too. Especially if your parents are still around. Yes, Mom. I know, we talked about it. We're going to get her done. Because I love her. So, I know, kind of a heavy topic, but I tried to keep it light. Any other input or comments you'd like to add to that before we move on to something else? Yes.
In the archives of Triple T's, you did actually have a whole one where you talked about writing your eulogy. And in case somebody wants to go back, it is in the archives.
Thank you. Yes. And the squirrel just delivered to me part of the reason and one of the cool things about what Ken Guzzo is doing with his near-death protocol is the what award is it? It's a humanitarian award, and I can't think of it right now. Nobel Peace Prize. A lot of people don't know that the Nobel Peace Prize, I hope I've got it right, it's one of those awards of that nature, it came about because the gentleman that it was named after had originally been a designer of bombs. And when his brother passed away, the local newspaper mixed the two up. And the headline in the newspaper was, Dr. Death Dies. And they used his name. And they thought it was him. So they were talking, he came up with bombs, advanced military weapons, because in his mind it would make wars end quicker and save lives. And of course, the newspaper had to go and twist it around and labeled him Dr. Death. And it was such an eye opener for him that he went on, he made it his mission to change the world's outlook on who he was, and fought for peace stronger than anybody else. And when he passed, they finally came up with the Nobel Peace Prize. And so it's another one of these where, what do you want from your future? Write your eulogy as, here's what I accomplished, and then set out to make that happen. It kind of gives you that little guideline. So, good on that. Like I say, I normally, yes, future pacing in a way. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Let's move on to the next topic. Minimalist collectors and hoarders. Oh, I had some eyebrows on that one. I even had somebody that didn't make it to the talk, and they were like, what was that all about? I'm like, well, you should have been there. Should have tuned in. You'd have noticed we didn't get to talk about it. So we all know who, I'm sure we all have somebody that we know that fits into one of those three categories. When you look at my background, you can probably quickly, easily recognize that I am not a minimalist. I've not been since I was born. Thank you, Mom. I love you. Thank you for putting up with me. But I'm also not a hoarder. I will share things, and I think part of my background is, if you know the concept rich dad, poor dad, my rich dad actually owned a garbage business. And as we were growing up, he lived a block away, if it was Monday morning or Friday afternoon, especially Monday mornings, if a couple of the guys had a case of the 3-2 flu and couldn't get there on time. 3-2 flu is on Sundays in Minnesota, you couldn't buy alcohol, but you could buy 3.2% alcohol beer. Had a tendency to give people a really bad headache or hangover in the morning. They would drink so much to try and get the same buzz. So they'd have 3-2 flu. We called it Monday mornings, when the weekend was a little too strong. Well, if us boys were strong enough to tip cans, there we are on the back of the garbage truck, making some extra bucks, tipping cans, and it showed us how much stuff people throw away. The saddest was around the holidays, especially after Christmas. You could tell the houses of divorcees. There would be kids' presents still wrapped in the garbage. They're not getting these from, no, damn it, kids ain't getting nothing from him. And so I ended up bringing a lot of stuff home. And the funny part was, my father used to get mad. What you bringing all that shit home for? Until I started bringing home things that he liked, and he was like, "Whoa, wait a minute, what's that? Where'd you get that?" I said, "Well, yeah, I got it in the garbage, Pop. So probably it should go probably right back where I found it." No, that's cool. So if he didn't like it, it was garbage, but if he did like it, it was stuff. But I also ended up kind of, there always seems to be one person somewhere in the family that ends up attracting all of the family archives, the pictures, the antiques, the this, the that. And I end up collecting everybody's pictures. I don't know how. They just show up. I found a box of pictures from my best friend when I was a kid. His pictures and his brother's pictures. And I started snapping pictures and sending them to them, you know, with my phone. And they're like, where did you get these? I'm like, the universe knows that I am a caretaker and you'd have lost it. And yeah. So, and there's the one that the people out of all of these, I think the ones that disturbs people the most, hoarders. And if you've seen the TV show, or if you've dealt with rental properties, or my wife was city manager and had to get called to some of these properties that neighbors complained about, man, and part of it I've been explained is they can't decide what to do with it, and just the act of having to decide causes too much anxiety, and so they just keep it. They just simply can't throw it away. And it can be all sorts of stuff. You know, it can be, you know, some people call them lazy, and some are. They just don't. We had one apartment that perfect renters. Yes, they always paid their rent on time. Never had a problem. Never had a peep. Never had a work order. Nothing. And then all of a sudden, they disappeared. No notice. Nothing. And we finally went into their apartment, and it reeked. There was garbage. There was a walkway that you could barely get through. You could tell what lazy boy they sat on, which TV that was sitting on top of the TV with the TV behind it that worked. The bathtub and toilet hadn't worked in who knows how long, full of garbage. We literally had to demo the entire apartment out. All of the drywall, the floor, the flooring underneath was, yeah. And so I've witnessed that as well. But then I also have noticed the minimalists that see my back wall and have anxiety attacks just by seeing it through a picture. And so we have to look at all of them. And I also, it dawned on me, it's kind of like feelings and energy. You have some clients that are minimalists. They don't, part of their problem is they have shut down so much stuff, they simply don't feel. They don't care, they don't feel, and at some point, either a loved one points it out, or they look at other people that have feelings, and they're like, I'm not the same. And then you have the collectors, who I think are kind of like empaths. They collect everybody else's feelings. but they let them out, they emote, and and then you have the hoarders. The hoarders that have lots of feels, but they pack it down deep inside. And one thing that I'd heard, but it didn't set in until I spent time with Dr. David Snyder about feelings causing illnesses. And Dr. David was the first one to point out that, that I heard up to 80% of all sickness and disease are caused by repressed emotion. And so for the collectors and the hoarders, you have to be very careful. What are you packing down? What are you holding on to? What are you hiding? What are you trying to be a strong soldier with? Is it worth the sickness? Is it worth the disease? And that's why you'll see some people that are dealing with, lumps or cancers or something like that, and they go and they remove it, and it pops up over here. Well, then they pull this, and it's almost like playing whack-a-mole, because they haven't dealt with the issue. They haven't released the energy. And the body goes, well, you took out a body part that I was storing the energy in. I still got the energy. Now I got to put it somewhere else. Okay, we'll put it over here. And yet I've also seen other people that come in and they're like, yeah, I've got this lump, and they're telling me it's cancer. And you go, da 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 da. And I'm not, before you start typing, I'm not saying we have the cure to cancer. I have seen some crazy stuff, though. I've seen some crazy stuff. And so if you're in a high stress situation, if you're not feeling well, all the above, look into as many different options and portals as possible. If you know somebody, have them talk to someone like us. Find out if they're collectors or hoarders or what's going on. If you're, same with feng shui, I'm sure a feng shui professional probably looking at my background and having a little anxiety attack going, that is so wrong. I get it. There's a few things I know. I mean, it's not completely whacked in here, but there are things I could improve on. They would look at my electronics in front of me and go, how do you? But I do get outside and ground myself every now and then. I'm pretty sure the ground is going, dude, what are you, a battery cell? Come on. So, anybody want to comment, add, share anything regarding that? Yes.
Just from an energetic standpoint, what I didn't understand when I first started learning about all the things that we love to talk about, especially when it comes to the self-help community. And I personally am working on a full rebrand. I'm going to call it Help Yourself. And it's going to be a smorgasbord of try some of this, try some of that, and really find what works for you. And I'm sure we all know people who are very much limited in their mindset of they've taken a few steps toward something and something's not working, and then therefore it's just not for them, rather than trying to figure things out in a different way. And especially when it comes to energies and other things that are occurring within the body. Going back to Brent Baum's work, the first things that we often hear are, I feel lighter, I feel brighter, I literally feel this energy coming out and even tingling in the arms, or a shifting of energy of sorts that they can't quite name. They just know that they feel lighter. And that's often the first thing that they say. And it is truly something that we might not be able to explain verbally with the clear, conscious ability to completely understand and grasp that information, but it is something. And just going with the fact that I feel better, I feel lighter, something happened. When we go to sleep, we don't actually know exactly where we go. We know we go somewhere, but our body's here and our conscious mind is somewhere else. And what do we just say? We all accept it as sleeping. There are other things going on. So if we can just be open to the fact that we're not going to know it all. And even when you think that you're going to know it all, you're still not going to know it all. And being open to learning and understanding to the best of your ability other ways of healing and connecting and feeling better and growing.
So thank you for sharing that.
I wanted to add something in too. I'm in agreement with what you're saying about the emotions and suppressing and illness, and I see it constantly all the time. And I've had some very interesting experiences as well, not only with myself and things that were in my family line, and then with clients and other people. And I would highly suggest to anyone who's dealing with that sort of thing to really begin to allow themselves to have conversations with their body and to really pay attention to the emotions that they're feeling, or maybe that they're not feeling, by allowing themselves to just notice the tension, for example, in their body and where it is. Sometimes these things can be quite literal. I've noticed a lot of times people's wording that they'll use to describe something. So a good example would be, I had a woman who I was not working on illness with, but she had came to me for a specific fear that she was dealing with that had to do with the illness. And right around about a month before she developed the illness, she said to me, I was in shock. And she developed a month later anaphylactic shock. So those are things to really pay attention to. Another person in the past I remember was having a hearing issue, although I noticed that he heard everything I said perfectly fine. And in his early years, he was hearing a lot of unloving voices, and he didn't want to hear that. He wanted to hear, of course, something loving. And so one of the ways of coping with that was to not hear it. So those are just things that I find really interesting, and I'm in 100% agreement with that. I think if people open themselves up to another perspective and to really starting to feel into themselves and to listen to what their body's trying to communicate to them, a lot of positive changes can happen for sure. So I just wanted to add that in.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Holly.
I'll just jump into, so it's interesting, this idea of comparing energetic stuff to the, physical hoarding and all that sort of thing. The best strategies that I have for cleaning, if you're, you need it, or maybe you're working with someone who needs it, there's a book called ADD Friendly Ways to Organize Your Life by Judith Kohlberg and Kathleen Nadeau. I don't know how to pronounce it, but has tons of really great strategies. And then also Shawn Achor, and the book The Happiness Advantage talks about something that he calls Zorro circles, which is basically taking things in smaller groups. How do you eat a whale kind of thing. But then the other one is the idea of, when people say, okay, it's time to clean and we're going to create piles. Most people will say, okay, I'm going to have two piles, the pile of things I'm getting rid of and the pile of things I'm keeping. And someone once suggested to me, make 3 piles. One is the stuff I know I want to get rid of. One is the stuff I know I want to keep. And the other pile is the I'm not sure yet pile. Because we spend just tons of time second guessing ourselves and which pile should it go in, and don't waste time on those things. There's other stuff that you already know what you want to do with it. Focus on what you want to know. Anyway, so this is kind of also making me think, I haven't tried this yet, but just, in hypnosis, maybe we can also do that a little bit too with energies of, yes, this is energy I want to keep. This is energy I want to get rid of. And this is energy I'm not sure about yet. Put it to the side. And then once you sort through a bunch of stuff, you learn why you want to keep it, why you want to get rid of it. So when you come back to the pile, you're ready. You're going to have a lot more answers, and you'll be ready to get rid of it because you don't have to second guess. Oh, I can't get rid of it because what if I make the wrong decision? Well, you don't have to make the decision. If you don't know, put it in that middle pile. So anyway.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
One other little thing I want to add too about the hoarding and stuff that I think is really interesting is that it's like what you had mentioned as far as the stuff that we're holding on to, and our physical body is like the home kind of to our soul and to our essence for now, and our actual home can be a reflection of what's going on internally. At least I've noticed when I start feeling a little chaotic, my surroundings start getting a little chaotic and you can't really separate the two. So it's helpful if you can start to look at things as feedback and a reflection, for sure. Because like I said, you can't separate the two.
Absolutely. And it is hard to separate the two. That's why it's fun to, I've told people if you're hiring people, if you get a chance at all, take a look at their car. Take a look at the inside of their car. How you do anything is how you do everything. And you're right. Sometimes when it's also an easy way to take a quick possible insight into friends and family on how they're doing. Drop by to see them. See what their place is looking like. If you have somebody who's typically a clean freak and you walk in and the sink's full of dishes and something's up. So little insights there. One of the other things that popped up when you were talking about client work, there are certain illnesses that have enough things in common that, like one, I had a client with major fibromyalgia, and Dr. David pointed out that that's anger, bitterness, regret, stress combined. That just so happened to be associated with their job and their partner at the time. As soon as that job went away, magically, fibromyalgia cleared up. A lot of allergies cleared up. A lot of medication went bye-bye. And no, I didn't tell, for those of you that want to start typing, you're not a doctor. I said they were able to get off a major amount of their medication. And it was lifestyle change, stress change, and fibromyalgia happened to be one of those that happens to coincide magically with people that are dealing with those types of emotions. There's a book, The Body Keeps the Score. Great book that explains a lot of that stuff. So it's a great reference to. And Holly, if you would Yes, Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Body. Holly, if you would put that book that you mentioned in
Oh, sure.
it would help. Um, so that gives us 6 minutes left on my hour. Any other stuff you want to add to this, or do you want to see how quickly I can do the aging and friends topic?
As fun as that is, and I do challenge you to race through the topic and see if you could squeeze it in. So we'll try and shorten the window of time down to 5
So,
minutes. Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Body is a phenomenal resource in case anybody hasn't gotten their hands on it. And it's really, really insightful. Things from digestion to shifting in your eyesight. And she'll explain what it is, and then she'll also offer an affirmation as to how to reframe it. Incredibly powerful, incredibly unique. And thank you, Holly, for putting those in. Body Keeps the Score is another great book too. And I love that Jade pointed out, careful what your words say, which is comical because I have actually been referring to, it feels like I was last week trying to crack my head open with a frying pan. Like I'm convinced that the universe is like, get it in her head, like hit her over the head with a frying pan. And in a very well-known movie and book, Eat, Pray, Love, one of the characters was asking, dear God, open my heart, open my heart, open my heart. And he had open heart surgery. So excellent point, Jade.
careful what you ask for. Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning, How to Free Yourself and Your Family from a Lifetime of Clutter, book by Margareta Magnusson. Thank you, Rada. The Body Keeps the Score by Shawn Pratt, Bessel A. van der Kolk. The Happiness Advantage by Shawn Achor. ADD, Friendly Ways to Organize Your Life by Judith Kohlberg and Kathleen Nadeau. Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Body. So those are all books that you can check out. Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert.
You're going to have to start your own book list.
Careful what you ask for. Seth has his own little website with pretty much every book that Dr. David has mentioned. And
I've seen that one, yeah.
yeah, there's Holly. How many books do you estimate Seth has on his book list now?
Oh gosh, it's done. And it's not just David. He has a page for just David, but he also, I think, has a page for like Chase Hughes, a page for several people. And it's always expanding. So
yeah,
it's very long.
That would be a long library that you could cover so much of this stuff. And there's so much information out there, but it just seems like it's a whole different world. I love watching when people first step into our world and they're like, yeah, I just saw something. I wanted to take a. This is what you're doing? And we're like, if this is what we do, this is what you see right now. What? Like, I know. I understand. Been there, done that. That's how I can help you through it, because I've walked into the door not knowing anything about it, and I'm so glad I didn't, because I would have had all the judgments that most people that when I tell them what I do, how many of you have told people that you work with hypnosis or energy and stuff like that and got that look of, oh, okay, all right, I'm nice to meet you. You're not hypnotizing me now, are you? I'm like, I already hypnotized you. That's why you love me. On that note, I'm not going to be able to cover aging and friends in 40 seconds. So we will just start the second hour early. And seeing as how Lenora was the only one that put in topics for the second hour, she put in manifestations and procrastinations. Sounds like a 70s funk group.
And given
So-
that the 70s were only 10 years ago.
Yes, yes. We were discussing that before the recording started, that one of the local DJs here pointed out that even though yesterday it was 102 here with a heat index of 110, that was not the record set. The record set for yesterday was set in 1980 when it was 113 degrees. Texas had over 30 days straight of triple digit heat. And then he had to point on, so the record was set 43 years ago. And I went, carry the one. What? No, 1980 was like, wasn't that long ago. 30 years ago, it was 1970.
There was something recently that said if Marty McFly went back in time, he would go back to this era, and it was like somewhere in the 80s or something like that. It's like poke somebody with a fork or something.
All right. All right. So you had question, manifesting, and procrastination. So how would you, that's your, anybody got, do you have, how would you like, what questions do you have about manifestation or procrastination that the group can chime in on?
What are your favorite procrastination blasters? And how do you set your day up to achieve what you want to achieve? I find that there's one thing in particular that I have to do, and then it's, I don't have time for it another day. I don't have time for it another day. And then before I know it, Friday comes and I have to make time to do what I need to complete by the end of the week.
Okay, second hour rules are in place. You guys answer first, and then I follow up so that I have a chance to learn stuff as well. So who's got an answer to her question?
I do. So, what I've noticed is a lot of times when there's procrastination, especially if it's something we say we want, there's usually beliefs that we're holding that are in conflict. So we might have conflicting beliefs. And just by taking, a few minutes to sort of sit and imagine the outcome that you want, the stuff that's in the way of that, the beliefs, the emotions that are there that are unprocessed will start coming up, especially if you notice you're sort of drifting away from it. You can draw yourself back to sort of enveloping yourself in that experience, and that stuff will come up. And another thing I've noticed is when we can't even get ourselves at all to focus on what it is we want. We don't even know exactly what it is that we say we want because we haven't even allowed ourselves to tap into it yet because it seems so out of reach. So that would be the one thing that I would say is really helpful, is to start, working on all this stuff that feels like it's in the way of you actually manifesting whatever it is that you say that you want. And that's a very, very easy simple way to start allowing, you know, the stuff to come up that's there.
Awesome answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who else has something?
I got something. I'm really kicking myself. Several years ago, I actually made myself a procrastination quick cheat guide. I need to go find that because I know I'm not getting everything that was on it. But so the first thing that to do in procrastination is it's basically, what is the smallest action I can take on this goal right now? And just saying, I only commit to do that smallest action. So the number of times that I've had a spreadsheet I needed to do, literally the smallest action I could do is do the first click on the icon. And I'm like, you know what? I'll go the extra mile. I'll do the double click. And the number of times that merely opening up an Excel spreadsheet, all of a sudden everything just flows and I'm not procrastinating anymore. It's ridiculous. If it's something that's a new habit that you're trying to establish, you know, say you want to start going to the gym. You could say, you know what? I commit to put my gym shoes on every day at this time for a week. I'm not even going to go to the gym. I'm just going to put on the gym shoes. And that tiny little thing could be the big thing that breaks through. A couple other things, of course, too, is I think I've talked about my theory about the overachiever, the underachiever, and the achiever. The overachiever believes we have more time, more energy, more health, everything than we really do. And so, you know, we overschedule ourselves and we have, 20 goals we're working on. And they say, if you have more than about 3 goals you're working on, 3 to 5, depending on their size, you're not going to accomplish them. So another question is, are you beating yourself up over something that I just had way too many goals scheduled and this really even shouldn't be a priority? Because, the good, better, best idea of, am I doing something good when I could have been doing something better? Or am I doing something that would be better when I could have been doing something that's best? Or am I sacrificing the best thing for the good thing kind of question? And then obviously, if you're really struggling, there's the procrastination blaster. I'm assuming you're probably familiar with that one. Where you say, I have to do it. I have to do it. I have to do it several, with intensity. And then I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And then you just sit for a minute. And I don't know how it works. I really don't. But all of a sudden it's just, oh, I want to do it. And then making sure you capitalize on that and jump up as soon as you're feeling that. So just a few of the top.
I wonder if that's like a styrofoam wall thing. Like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And then as you push against it, and then it just kind of starts to dissolve. That was the first thing that came up, and I thought
that makes tons of sense to me.
Thank you.
Anybody else? One of the things that I've learned, especially for myself, I have a tendency to overload my plate and bounce around like a squirrel during harvest. One is writing down what needs to be done, making sure that I have the top 3 priorities. And sometimes if I've got, I can do a list of 20 things that need to be done. So it'll have to be the top 3 that have to be done, the next top 3 to pick from, the next top 3 to pick from. And for some of the things I've found, I even have to schedule them. Like, I have to do this starting right now. If I'm doing, I have to start this project at 10 a.m. And that tells me that I have to be up at this time, because my morning routine minimized takes this much time. Then I have to have this so I can get to this. And it's amazing how a lot of times I'll find myself allowing more time than I think it takes. In my head, I'll make it harder than I think than it actually is. It'll be like, oh, yeah, I don't want to do that because but I got to get it done. So I'm going to start 10 a.m. It's going to take me 2 hours. 10:35, I'm done. I'm like, really? I've been scared about this for my apartment remodel right now is a perfect example. We're getting at that very final part, and there was a lot of key things that I'd been putting off because I hadn't quite figured out how to do them yet. And I realized I had made them bigger issues, scarier than they actually were. And finally, I was just like, got to get it done. This is right now. Da, 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 da. Really? That was it? That was the big hairy monster that I've been avoiding for 3 months, and I got it done in 35 minutes.
Can I jump in
You do those.
And tell you my perspective on procrastination? I think it's a sacred space. I find that when I'm procrastinating, I can actually use this to put my mind on overdrive for the task that I have been procrastinating about. And if I'm in flow and just concentrate on something else, completely forget about the task that I've been avoiding, it solves itself in my unconscious mind while I'm not directly focusing on it. And it's a time of flow. If you just get into action on something else, you can create, you can knock out number 2 and number 3 on your list of gotta do's very easily and quickly without worrying about it. It's actually a place of flow. So, don't think that it's a horrible place, this procrastination. It's actually a really sacred space where your unconscious mind will take over if you just take it away from your main focus. So that's my message. I've done it again and again and again.
Cool.
This is precious. Enjoy. Thank you.
And thank you for sharing that, Fran, because what we're finding, everybody has some tool, some angle that works. And the more we can find out, we'll be able to find that one that fits. You got some military guys where they're just like, get it done. You just do it. The only way through is through. There is no, well, for some people that haven't been in that training, that mindset, that can be way overwhelming. So what you brought up, Fran, is also another beautiful way to look at things. So anybody else got anything they want to share on that? Please. Or do we have another topic? Yes,
I would like to share. Earlier, we talked about Louise Hay, and I was trying to find something for you guys. This is the video that I'm going to share in the chat. If any of you would like to meditate tonight and to try it out, it's the video. I've done many meditations. This is the one that has helped me the most for overall personal growth and letting go of guilt, letting go of shame. And also it touched the deepest on the self-love and just self-acceptance. It's so powerful. I don't know quite why. Maybe you can tell me, one of you who listens to it, in the next meeting, but maybe one of the reasons is because it starts with everything goes both ways, every affirmation. So it's something like if Louise Hay would say, let's say, love myself deeply, you love yourself deeply. So she would go, I love my life, you love your life. Just examples. I don't think this is something that she uses, but so that way, as you think of yourself and allowing yourself to feel the feeling, at the same time you also allow whoever else you think about at that time, and it's usually a person or a thing that you hold certain feelings around, something that triggers you, that comes to your mind, and as you liberate that person or whatever, a group, or then you also liberate yourself. And for me, it was very powerful. And also I share this with some of my clients. They find it really powerful and very inspirational. So here it is in the chat. You can click on it if any of you want to try it, and let me know how it feels.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Snyder. Okay, we've got 45 minutes left. Who else has a question, topic? Yes.
I just wanted to chime back in. Thank you for posting that, Savo. Fran, I did hear what you were saying about acknowledging and noticing that when you're procrastinating, finding a different twist on it. So I love that you have pointed that out. And there was something interesting I heard this week. Has anyone heard of The Neuroscience of Flow by Stephen Kotler? It is this, I believe it's an online program of which I was trying to pull up in time as I was talking about it. But I know Fran had mentioned quite often about flow states and how to get in and out of them. And what I found was, especially over the last number of weeks, the extreme of when you don't take a break, the extreme of what's happening between the right side of your brain and the left side of your brain, and how you're tuning out information that you may need that may be helping you on the other side. So when Fran, you had reframed that, that's what it had made me think of. And I think Holly's popping it into. Thanks, Holly. Man, she's faster than anything. Holly, are you like you're faster than ChatGPT, girl?
I happen to be very familiar with that website, so I knew it off the top of my head.
Nice. So I thought that was. Do you know anything about this course or anything about the background of this, Holly, by any chance?
I do know. So there's a book also. I'll maybe look up. I can't remember the exact name. It's something like Flow by Stephen Kotler and his is it James? Anyway. But just some of the things they talk about is the fact that you could be up to 500% more productive when you're in a flow state versus when you're not in a flow state. And they talk a lot about the fact that people get out of flow by all it takes is reading a text message, reading an email, and boom, you're lost. The average person can probably only be in a flow state for up to about 4 hours a day. Also, this a good companion book for this book is Deep Work by Cal Newport. So putting those together, you can get a lot of interesting takeaways. But yeah, I'll let you keep talking about it. Just a couple highlights.
You definitely know way more than me, so by all means, keep sharing. It was just something that I had learned about, and I found it really interesting because a few weeks ago, and I believe, last couple of Triple T's, TJ, you had mentioned really specifically about the importance of taking breaks, whether you want to call it a vacation, whether you want to call it a break or a getaway, whatever label you want to give it, that it truly is important. And I didn't realize how important it was. And as things keep unfolding and evolving, of which will lead me into manifestation, it's just a completely deeper, newer, expansive level that I've been moving through over the last couple of weeks, and it's really, really awesome. The one thing that I had mentioned, some of you guys who do know me, I can get a little hung up on the how and the who and all these very specific, but how is it going to happen? And over the last year and a half, I have been not salary based. I have been out and entrepreneurial and finding ways to remain with a roof over my head and doing my best to keep money in the bank. So as that's evolving, I came to the conclusion I think just a few mornings ago, and I was like, the universe is my employer. How did I not know that? How did I miss that? And rather than thinking I need to connect with this person or this person in a very limited, lackful amount, when I thought of that, it was just huge opening of the door, which I'm very glad, Jade, that no frying pan was actually smacked over my head physically. This has just been a very mental component. So it's really interesting to start really playing more. And again, for those of you who know me for a bit of time, I've been very resistant in the past to manifesting, to writing anything down because of past years when I didn't understand what I know now. So I'm starting to feel better. And I love how Holly always goes, I'll jump in. And I'm now thinking that more and more. So it's not just a toe in the pool. Now we're diving in more frequently and it's getting better and better. So any insights and guidance and ahas that you guys like to share? I love the one that Holly mentioned today, knowing that she would be okay when floating, no matter where she was. So just really powerful. So anybody, by all means, jump on in.
Okay, who's got something for her?
This is kind of to the side, but if nobody else is going to go, just a thought that popped into my head when you were saying that is this is also really important for management. I'm just thinking about a company I know that is really cracking down on their employees, like their bathroom breaks and their, all that sort of thing. If you're 500% more productive, if you're in a flow state, and you're 33% more productive, if, playful, happy, all that sort of thing. I just kind of did some math, and these employers are likely on average sacrificing 144 minutes worth of productivity for each employee because they don't want to give them an extra 15 to 30 minutes of moments to just, be happy, eat a comfortable lunch rather than having to swallow it whole, that sort of thing. They're so stingy on those things that they're paying the price on the other side. So like there are real world benefits to this too.
Thank you for sharing that. Yes, it's a balancing act between the productive ones and the goof-offs, and looking at the 80-20 rule, of course, 20% of the people doing 80% of the work. But another part, and I'm glad you brought that up, Lenora, thank you for sharing that, is again, taking those breaks, taking those vacations, because it's an opportunity to let some of that energy out, get that mental break away from all of the energies and all the worries and all the stuff, so that your brain can breathe for a little bit. And then when you come back to work, things look new again. So, and Holly put up another book, Deep Work, Rules for Focused Success in a Distracted World by Cal Newport. Yes, Lenora.
I'm going to chime back in. What I used to think a vacation was you were going to go away, you're going to vacate everything, and you're going to come back and you're just going to repeat that cycle until your next vacation. And in 2019, I had gone away for 2 weeks and they were really, really powerful. And when I came back, I did just that. And I didn't have the tools that I now have. And I also didn't have a lot of things in place. And things had started to what I quite literally went back to, not only did I go back to what I was doing, it got way worse. Things were getting worse and worse. And I can't even call it a couple weeks ago, I can't even call it a vacation because it's not the word for it. It was quite literally the closing of one chapter and the opening of another one. And I know Elijah and I had talked about some of the work by Joe Dispenza and the mind and heart coherence. And I didn't realize that when people go to these retreats, yes, they're a beautiful thing to go to. And you get these great insights, especially when you're in that energy with those other people. And the importance of having that transformation, surrendering to that transformation, but then also going into the integration of saying, how am I going to take the things that I've learned and apply them on a daily basis so that I don't go back to what I was? And when I started to realize while I was away that it was a transformation, that it was integration to keep what I could and apply it. And I would think about how would I apply it while I was away. So that way, when I came back here, I wasn't super, super distorted. And I'm finding ways to do that very specifically through different workouts and having that mind body connection and separating from social media. I love connecting with people on social media, but I also realize the destruction of it and how I could just go and it takes you right out of the flow state. I completely agree when you guys said an alert on your phone. Huge difference when you start putting those smartphone barriers in place that say, okay, don't send me notifications, put time limits on this. I know Elijah was really, really awesome at, Elijah knows stuff about a smartphone that I don't even think Apple knows about a smartphone. And just really integrating that and saying, this is so important. Being in this space is so important that everything else is going to become in the back seat until this can be focused on, and then navigating them one in at a time so that you really are present and giving your undivided attention to the things that you're doing. I know that was a little tangential.
I want to add something in too. Kind of bouncing off of that. I know for some people, they feel like a vacation might be too far away than something that they can do right now. But just for those type of people, I think something that can be really important is recognizing where you can actually have a sort of vacation in your everyday life more often. That's not necessarily traveling to some place, but maybe is in your own city. So a good example would be over this weekend. There's all kinds of free events all the time. In fact, I got invited, this last weekend, I think it was on Sunday night, to a gong ceremony, sound healing that was free. It was beautiful. And being able to learn how to be more present in your everyday life so that, whether you're just hanging out with a friend or you're at some restaurant or you're at some free event that's being offered, you can really take it in and receive it as if it is a vacation, as if you are being pampered and everybody's done that just for you. It's been put together just so you could enjoy it, so that you can really take it in. And even, for example, when we think about meditation, they've proven that it gives you so many hours of rest just from a small amount of meditation, and you can go anywhere in your subconscious mind. And so if that gives you that same, if you can really give yourself permission to experience, you can even do that in your mind if you can't go anywhere, and just give yourself permission to take a moment out of your day to really go wherever it is that feels best for you inside and create a vacation inside.
Absolutely. Great insight. Thank you for sharing that. Who else has something to share? We've got 30 minutes left.
I can share something I learned recently. Some of probably the most important modality through years of working with clients and working on myself, I recently learned that, at least for me, and looking back, clients who made the most progress was inner child work. And I've been just reading a lot and listening and applying, and that's just something that helped me personally a lot. And also something that people usually don't pay attention to. So I would like you guys to maybe talk a little bit about inner child and how that work helped you, or something about that, because I think it can benefit everybody. And the second part is what came to my mind when you asked the question, TJ, is how a lot of therapists don't notice that what keeps people stuck is not really the feeling they feel, but the secondary feeling, the secondary gain. Sometimes it's the fear of feeling the feeling fully. So people try to avoid it, shop it, Netflix it, do run away from it. And because there is a fear associated to, if that happens, then I'm not supposed to have it. I'm afraid of that. So let's say that's one. Or it can be guilt. I'm feeling guilty about feeling that way. So if I feel that there is the second, so it's a feeling about the feeling. So it's a judgment of that feeling, how that can also keep people stuck. And sometimes when I do inner child work with people, I come across that. So that's why there is a link of that in my mind. So I would like you guys to maybe say something about that, if you would.
Please, that's huge. If anybody has anything right now, say it, but somebody sent me a short video on Instagram today about the reality of inner child healing. And the video was amazing. I have no idea what movie it's from, but it made so much sense. And I don't know if it'll show up on here, but I'm going to give it a shot. So that summed up some of the inner child work that I've done with clients so well. And most of my clients didn't even have an idea that they had an inner child. It was just, I don't know why I feel this way, or I don't know why I'm so whatever. And all of a sudden we go in and there's that young child that has been screaming and yelling and running the show and all the above. And when they finally came to terms and clean that up, all of a sudden they were able to move forward. And Lenora, you said you found out it's from Uptown Girls, 2003.
Yeah, it's that was the year that the movie was made. It is Brittany Murphy, and just a really, really accurate depiction of what inner work is. And it's so interesting that it gets called inner child, whether it is a 23-year-old version of yourself or an 18-year-old version of yourself or a 5-year-old version of yourself. And there's so many different labels to give it, whether it's reparenting or befriending your inner enemy. I popped a TED talk in there about somebody who had mentioned about befriending your inner enemy from that standpoint, especially if you think of no bad parts. It is serving you. It is helpful. I have found it. There are times where, for me, the ongoing trying to be overly considerate to it, and I really do need that tough love component. Well, you better you need to get it together, and getting that authority in place has been very, very helpful for me. And I think it does go back to this beautiful umbrella term of self-love, because there is tough love when it is appropriate. There is soft love when it is appropriate. There's a nurturing component, but it really is working with that inner voice, however many voices and masks it wants to wear. And it may parade around as a younger version of you, but that younger version of you may be parading around as a parent of whatever version that had pulled in. And it's extraordinary to have that separation and to have that conversation with that part. I short of blowing your mind, but it never occurred to me until I started to get in these groups and these connections of, hey, you're not the only one that's hearing a voice, or hey, this is a feeling that's coming up. And it's not something that's really talked about in mainstream, and hopefully it's starting to evolve and becoming more common that people are talking about it, but it is massively friggin' helpful. And a double disassociation, when that part is even needing more support and getting that energy out and separating it, that Elijah had mentioned through another teacher. The name is slipping me right now, but I mean, the mental gymnastics that go on is absolutely extraordinary.
Fran, you had your hand up.
Well, all this is just so much on point that this is what kind of pulls the rug out from under our feet. And the aspect of this that's really been focusing my attention, certainly in this last week, is rejection and how we deal with rejection, and who we are in any particular rejection, whether we're the inner child or some more adult part of ourselves, and how we deal with rejection, because that's imprinted at a really young age. And how to get past that, because I find it a really hard thing to get past, though certain aspects of myself can deal with the rejection much more easily than others. So in a business context, I think I'm far more resilient than in a personal context. And where does all this come from? And it's all our inner child programming. So can I have throw that out there and see what other people think?
I'd like to.
Savo had also asked Holly to explain what she typed in, her great information on cognitive dissonance. But Jade, what you were going to say first, and then if Holly has a chance, she can go over it.
All right. So one thing that I wanted to say is what I think is really profound about inner child work is the fact that our, body and brain doesn't really know the difference between our external experience and our internal experience. And so when we give ourselves permission to feel whatever it is that we're feeling, one of the things that happens is we can recognize that within the pain that we've felt, we actually really deeply know what it is that we wanted or needed to experience. And so we can use that sort of knowing to understand how to deal with that part of, inner child. And we can then begin to give ourselves that experience. And our brain literally adds that to our gestalt of memories so that we're more likely to have those kinds of experiences in the future. And so I think that's one thing that for me is really profound about inner child healing, is it completely can change a person's experience, their perception of things and their future.
Yep.
Love that. I'll jump in and talk about cognitive dissonance, I guess, a little bit. And we could call it inner child, we can call it whatever. And you can see, I just barely posted in the chat too, that I think cognitive dissonance is one of the most common reasons why we have trouble seeing stuff. But I gave a couple other reasons as well. So cognitive dissonance is basically things that we do. They're kind of, I like to think of them as lies we tell ourselves, stories we tell ourselves that we can't let go of without either having some kind of personal growth, admitting we were wrong. And so the examples of cognitive dissonance, it's often when, when your actions don't align with the beliefs that you state that you have. So the common examples are, for example, a doctor who is a chain smoker. And so, there's a part of them that says, yeah, I believe in science. I believe that being a chain smoker is probably not the most healthy thing in the world. And then, but on the flip side, they're a chain smoker. So then they have to come up with, how am I going to live with this? How am I going to sit in this weird place where my behavior doesn't align with my actions? Or so, for example, let's say, I'll just say you're not getting very many dates. And so you've told yourself the story. It's because everybody around me is too intimidated by my awesomeness and, that sort of thing. Well, if you were to change and heal yourself and say, you know what, maybe it's because I'm not making myself vulnerable enough. Maybe it's because I'm not investing in that side of my life, those skill sets. If you're able to come to that conclusion and understand that, you could change and you could change your results. But the price of that is you now have to see that you had that power within you. You may not have had the understanding, but that explanation you've given, you had that power within you. You have to take ownership of it. This was my choice. This was not everybody around me being idiots. I no longer get to blame other people. I have to take that responsibility. So I know I'm kind of rambling on this one. Hopefully that's kind of making sense. What cognitive dissonance means. But yeah, I would say people often, one of the biggest challenges is giving people a way that they can get over their cognitive dissonance, where healing doesn't mean they have to come up against their cognitive dissonance, or where at least you soften the blow to the cognitive dissonance, where you have to tell yourself, okay, yeah, I do have to give up the story, but I define myself as somebody who grows. I define myself as somebody who updates my beliefs. And I know that I'm getting a better belief and the outcome is better. And I did the best I could with the skills I had at the time. So that line right there can really help with the cognitive dissonance of, I did the best I could.
Okay.
Just wanted to offer maybe something that can help out with that a little bit. And I always find, like, if you look at both parts, because they seem like they have two very different ways about going about things. You have one part of you that, for example, is, let's say, a relationship, right? I want freedom, while the other part, I want to be loved. And there's a belief underneath there that's causing that, right? That you can't have both of those things. Why can't you have freedom and love? So if you look at both parts, you can always find what the highest positive intention is of either one of those two behaviors. And if you continue asking the question enough times, you're always going to come to the same answer. So they really want the same thing for you, which is usually love, connection, freedom, peace, whatever, something like that. And then you can work to, obviously one of the behaviors isn't working anymore. You can work to find new ways of meeting that same need, so that that part that believes there's a certain way of getting that need met finds that there's a new way to actually get the same need met.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And Elijah put in something very, very important in the chat, which is he put in, that's why I teach leading people to their epiphany, but never revealing it to them, letting them uncover it themselves. Even Dr. David had pointed that out many times, that people will believe what they conceive on their own. They will have a hard time believing what you tell them is true. And so you have to get really good at doing exactly what Elijah pointed out, was asking the questions that allow them to come to their own conclusion. When they do that, that's when it sets in hard. Even if you know what the issue is, it's much better for you to figure out how to ask the questions to lead them to it than it is to tell them exactly what's going on. Elijah called it directionalized ambiguity. Ambiguity. Thank you. Directionalized ambiguity. So, and it also works really well with kids. What's a really good way to get a kid to do something? Make them think it was their own idea.
Works wonderfully in the business situation as well.
Because they're still kids, a lot of them.
Yep.
Rather than saying you got to go to bed by 10, you go, well, you want to go to bed at 10 or 10 after 10? Whoa, 10 after 10. I got you. Yeah, you did. Well, you agreed to 10 after 10. You got me. You got an extra 10 minutes. Let's go. And that leaves us with 13 minis left. Anything else on this topic or any other topic you guys want to squeeze in quick? Any questions?
I have a question that kind of building on what Fran said. I'm going to be very specific, but obviously if you want to respond to what Fran was asking, you can do that too. I've been thinking a lot about rapport and specifically how much pain we feel when we're regularly cut off from rapport. And also how, people like gaslighters can like love bombing. It's obviously they give you a whole bunch of rapport and then they cut off rapport. And I'm just kind of curious, because that's, I think, the biggest rejection, at least for me, is that I see other people in rapport and I'm not getting it, or I think they're in rapport and I'm not getting it. And I want to be a part of that. I feel left out kind of thing. And I'm just curious, question number one is, why is rapport such an important need for us? And then question number two is, when should we focus more on getting the rapport we're not getting? And when should we focus on not caring about the rapport that we're not getting?
Ooh. Good question. Solid.
Thank you, Holly, for honestly asking, like, sincerely these questions. It's such a good question. I think it really, like we all know, comes back from the time when we lived in tribes and we wanted to be a part of the pack because we all know what happens to the lone wolf. And being in rapport And first part of the question is, there are certain people who will, it's like love bombers, they will give you rapport, they will be present, they will give you the attention and love, and then they will cut it off to where it's almost going to be like that hot cold. And I feel sincerely that always, in my experience, every time, whether I was working with clients or my own life, these people are really deeply, deeply damaged inside. So they have the very same thing going on inside of them, and they're breaking their own heart, because every single thing, like that thing what I sent you guys earlier by Louise Hay, I think that everything we do inside, it just radiates outwards. And I'm gonna leave the rest of the time for others because we're all almost coming to the end, but that's that.
Awesome. Great insight. Who wants to add on to that, please? Well, Savo's going to get back on the mic because he's on a roll. He's got good info.
TJ, you haven't been answering. You just let us talk. I think
No,
it's your time.
this is the second hour. This is how I do it. This is how I learn, because if I'm just a talking head, I don't right back to who's the expert. I don't consider myself to be always the expert. Sometimes the expert is the one that's a half a step ahead, like Fran.
I was going to say that one of the ways to break that is to do something unexpected, to break the mold, to do what's, not the normal response to that. And that works with rejection a lot of the time as well, that if you can do what's not expected, something different, something that other people wouldn't do, it completely breaks the frame and changes the picture, changes the PowerPoint if you want. And by doing something different, you give yourself the courage and the presence, I guess, to be different. And it changes how the wound occurs to you. I guess like if you're confronting an unexpectedly dangerous situation in a street, if you do something really unexpected, you're going to have a far greater possibility of removing yourself from a difficult situation if you do what's not expected. And by increasing your repertoire of what's not expected and actually starting to practice that in a small way every day in your own life, just little things, it makes your brain more flexible to do something different. Now shoot me down with that one.
Did you really just say that? That was awesome. Thank you, Fran. The thing about rapport, Sabo hit it right on the head. It comes back to being accepted. It's part of that energy of knowing that you're accepted by somebody, the tribe, whatever. And it's also that it becomes like a drug, especially for people that have an absence of it, or they grew up without a lot of that. That's why those people can be so easy to manipulate. Hit them with the love bombs, hit them with the heavy rapport. It's that drug, and they're just like, oh. And then cut it off. And it's the same process as a drug dealer. Here, try this, try this, try this. Oh yeah, oh, isn't that great? Yeah, well, now if you want it, you got to pay for it. now that you're addicted to it. And Dr. David used to have us doing what we called rapport wars. And you could, so that people could actually feel what it felt like to have that door closed. And it was interesting because I would watch students that didn't quite understand what it was like. And I'd been hanging around Dr. David enough, and these trainings enough, and doing this enough that I got pretty good at it. And I'd say, well, okay, you want to know what it feels like? And I would go in, hit them with some echo talk, 3 magic questions. As soon as I felt that connection nice and strong, you can actually do like an arm swipe and break that energy and turn your back. And I literally had people go, oh, you jerk. And they were expecting it. They knew it was coming. It was part of the exercise. But even then, to have that energetic rapport cut like that, literally, it's like an energetic slap to the face that goes right into the gut. Bam, just like that. And I would go, well, now you know what it feels like. They're like, that sucked. I'm like, you can have your good feelings back. Here you go. And they're like, oh, now don't take it away. That was not nice. I said, that was part of the exercise. That's why we do that. But you have to know what it feels like to know how to react to it. It's part of, like Sabo will probably tell you, just like martial arts, MMA. Those that have never been hit go down the easiest. The ones that have been hit a number of times know what to expect. It's not the shock to the system that it normally is. Now, you don't want to get so callous that, people can't affect you at all. But you still have to understand what's happening to not only protect and help yourself, but to also protect and train and teach your clients so that they know what they're dealing with and they know how to protect themselves and react to it and recover. And Elijah put in a great answer when Fran was talking. He said, yes, manipulate the frame, transmute it, reshape it. Remember, reality frame override. Lenora.
I just wanted to pop in really quick. I know we're coming close to closing time. One thing that when Holly, when you had asked the question or when you put it out there, it stuck out to me. And one thing that I really carried was always be testing, but also, especially when it happens in a work environment. I am somebody who has gone through a number of work environments, and I know for sure these people are work friends. These are not my lifelong friends. And I draw that boundary right away because I accidentally confused them at one point, and I learned that lesson. And also, when that rapport is broken, this goes back to that inner child work of recognizing, hey, you're okay. You're still a good person. You're still loved. The people that are true to you, that you know for sure that you can call up at the drop of a hat and they'll be there for you, those are your people. These aren't your people. They can break rapport all day long that they want to do that. You know who you are. You know where you come from, and you know the integrity that you have. You have that relationship with yourself. And recognizing that's fine. You can be over there, have the rapport. Yeah, it was a good chuckle. Oh, I'm super happy for you. And know that you're okay. And whatever happens over there has nothing to do with you. They don't know you at your most personal.
Amen. And I'm glad you brought that up, especially for those of us in this profession. It's a double-edged sword when we have clients come to us and we help them and we're better and off they go. Because part of the way that we get to help them is by building rapport, building that trust so that the inner child can feel safe talking to us and resolving issues. But like I say, then all of a sudden we fix their issues and off they go and we don't hear from them again. And it's almost like that, and off they go and you're like, I miss you. How you doing? Hi. Just saying. So we also have to remember that part. Work is work, business is business, friends is friends, family is family, and Fran is one of our amazing friends and family, and she put her hand up.
Just a very quick thing, and to remember to keep our sense of humor about it all, including in the difficult times. But I just wanted to share a little silly thing in our Oz group on Saturday, inspired by Savo. We had a last man standing hypnosis game where we were all hypnotizing each other as hard as we could using hypnotic language. And the last person standing, we were going round in a circle with the group, and Elijah was there and trying to stay awake while you were being bombarded by everybody with their hypnotic language. It was so funny. So, in every situation, even with trauma work, keeping your sense of humor is so powerful. Have fun. Thank you, Saba.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I've talked with a number of EMTs and law enforcement and stuff, and I said, please understand, you still have to keep that childhood, that playful energy with you, even when the feces hits the rotating oscillator, as Dr. David would say. The more you can keep that playful childlike part, the easier and quicker you can help people, including yourself. And that brings us right up to the top of the second hour, closing time. After many years of bartending, I knew that part too. Sometimes you wanted to close up. Sometimes you were like, maybe no, you got to respect the time, because as I will say every single time is the one thing that I don't know how to give back to you. For you to share your precious commodity with myself and the rest of the group means so much to me, because without you, I'd be here yakking to myself to a microphone and a camera, and it wouldn't be nearly as much fun. And I want to thank you guys for making Triple T what it is, for making the second hour a place where you can share your input, your ideas, your vision, your outlooks. I never wanted this to be just me as a talking head. I learned from you guys. I pray that you learn from me, and that the stuff that we bring up enrich your time and your ability to help others. So until the next time we get to do this, thank you so much. Love each and every one of you. Go out in the world, have fun, live well, be nice to each other. Victory poses, love, and all above. I'll see you guys soon. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, TJ.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Linda.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, TJ.
Thank you, Fran, for showing up. Appreciate you. Thank you, Elijah.